Good morning. My name is Douglas. I'm the CRO of Servoy. This is Jan. He's the founder. And we're going to be with you for 45 minutes. Let me tell you what we're going to be doing just to set everyone's expectations. We're talking about modernization, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll try to stress the good a little bit more, but we want to be realistic about it. So we'll talk about a little bit about the challenges therein. I'll be talking primarily about the business aspects of it, why you might want to consider modernizing, obviously if you haven't already, what other companies have gained from it, the problems that they avoided or deleted or diminished by doing it, and what the upside is. Jan will be focusing on the tech aspects of it. We're not going to do a super deep dive into that, but we're going to give you a sense of what our technology is about. And then we're going to wrap up with, and we expect that that'll be maybe half of our time, maybe a little bit more than that. So we hope to have a good amount of time at the end, and it won't be 5 minutes, it'll be more like 15 or 20 if we manage the time correctly, for an interactive Q&A. So we really want to make this about you as much as possible, and for you guys to ask anything and everything that you want. So is that okay for an agenda? Is everyone all right with that? Okay. So let's start. So we are a rapid app development platform, preferred by Progress, and we have had the partnership with them for about a year and a half. So we have already worked with many Progress shops and hope to, of course, work with many more. And the reasons why companies have at least talked to us, if not actually worked with us, are things like, these are the things that we're hearing, and maybe some of you can relate to this. We've had customers come to us saying that they are getting beaten in the marketplace because their offering isn't as cool looking as the competition, so they're getting their hat handed to them by their competitors. They talk to us about the user experience not being as smooth and as friendly and as comfortable as possible, and because of that, they're getting complaints from some of their existing customers, and they are finding that those who have tried, or maybe still are trying to do it by themselves, that they're struggling with the current workload that they have. Maybe their internal resources aren't quite vast enough to handle the workload in addition to their existing tasks, and some of them are just overwhelmed by the enormity of the project. Those are the types of things that we're hearing in the marketplace, and maybe when it gets to Q&A, you could share some of your experiences. I hope that you will, and the reasons why people are coming to us and why they're open to modernizing, why they need to modernize. We have encountered no shortage of companies who have had this on their agenda for multiple years, some as long as 10, 11 years. And they've tried various things, nothing has quite happened, and we've been able to make it a quicker, easier, not pain-free, but a little bit more painful than it would otherwise be. So those are the things that we're encountering, and I'm going to turn it over to Jan, and he's going to show you a little bit about how we do it.
Thank you. All right, first of all, if you come to our booth, we have this very cool gadget. So every year I get to pick, as Mr. Gadget himself, I get to pick which gadgets we give away. This year, for those of you who never lose their keys, you can use it as a camera shutter. If you do lose your keys or your parked car, you attach this to your keys, and your phone will always be able to find your keys. Or vice versa, if you lose your phone, you push the button on your keys, and it will find your phone for you. So at our booth, free for you. I think we have 500, so we don't have one for everybody, but I guess with 500 we should have enough. You guys know firsthand, so you'll be lining up at my booth after this. All right. So today I'm going to talk about the experiences of a couple of Progress companies that modernized, and the steps they went through in doing that. And from both SIT and REA, we actually have a more detailed video recording. We went for a video because otherwise we would have to bring up 12 people on here on the floor. That would be a little bit too much. Also, Royal 4 has their own conference going on, so for them it was logistically impossible to be at this show. But with the pre-recorded session, you can see what kind of reasoning they went through to make this decision and what steps they have been following so far. And as Douglas mentioned, if you do have any questions, then feel free to either interject or at the end of the session we'll have plenty of time to go through any of them. And we can go as technical as you want to. I started Servoy about 18 years ago in 2001. Before that, I did a little bit of internet-based development. I used Progress WebSpeed in 1999, I think, or 2000, around that era. And what I found is that developing browser-based applications was way too difficult back then. And that's the reason why I started Servoy, to make it easier and quicker to develop browser-based and mobile applications. That was 18 years ago, and that is still our mission today, is how could we make it that easy that any Progress developer can develop modern browser-based applications, which can be quite different than your native Windows application. So today we have over 900 clients, customers doing this. A lot of them are ISVs with complex products, but increasingly also in-house corporate developers that use our technology. All right, let's talk about front-end modernization. And this is actually the house of my neighbor in the previous place where I lived. And he needed to modernize his front end, and he said this is going to be a 2-day project. And as you guys probably know, it's you take off the front of your house and then the shit hits the fan. You see all kinds of problems behind that front end. And in the world of software, it's very similar. You think it's an easy project, you just stick on a new front end and off you go. But as soon as you start tearing down your existing front end, you may find that it is glued too heavily to your back end. Or that your backend needs a lot of work before you can even get started modernizing your front end. So it's not an easy task to begin with. So we'll briefly look at modernizing the classic way. And this is where we have seen a lot of ISVs fail with trying to modernize their applications, because typically Progress applications are very complex, contain a lot of years of development, some more than 10, 15 years of ongoing development. And then as a second step, we'll look at modernizing with the approach that we have developed together with Progress ISVs and Progress the company to make this a lot less seamless and to take a lot of the risk out of modernizing. How can you be sure that if you set aside 12 months of doing this, that it's also done after those 12 months? So do it in a limited time frame with the limited resources that you have available. So this is typically the classic way that we would see. We would see Progress ISV select a UI toolkit, and this often seems like a very religious decision, and this is often done by technical people, and they may, for some reason, say we like Bootstrap, or we like Material, or we like one of the Google UI front ends. And then as a second step, you still need to build your whole stack to do everything else, because the UI is only maybe 10% of the equation in modernizing. It's only a very small aspect in getting your application out. So very often these companies will start building their own stack. So they'll pick something for the server-side things, they'll pick something for the data binding layer, they'll pick something for security, they'll pick something for authentication. And as you stack up these things, your application will typically need about 30 to 40 different kind of technologies to build a modern browser-based application. So selecting those can be quite difficult. finding people who are experienced in all those different frameworks and technologies can be even more difficult. And then trying to integrate them together can be another challenge. And another big challenge with all of these frameworks is that a lot of them are abandoned. I like to call that abandonware. You adopt Angular 1.0, and after half a year you find out that it's completely abandoned. Now you have to throw away all of your code and begin from scratch. And since modern browser applications are out, and if you guys are interested, I have a list of them, over 200 frameworks have already been abandoned. And you're probably using one of those frameworks today. And of course you can go in, often you can get the source code and begin maintaining it yourself. So it's not like you have a tremendous lock-in, but do you want to build on a dead or an abandoned framework? Same applies for stateful versus stateless. I'll zoom a little bit into that in the next slide. Looking at your cloud setup, how are you going to do your automated testing? Are you going to use what kind of CI and CD tools, continuous integration and continuous deployment technologies are you going to use? And very often we saw companies using a waterfall approach where you wouldn't see anything until the end of your development cycle. And that is already a bit of a setup for failure in today's software world. This way is going to be very, very challenging for you to be successful in modernizing an application. So what we've developed with a lot of ISVs and in the past 2 years with Progress ISVs is a more modern way to modernize your applications. We've put all those aspects into a program we call the Appsurance program. And in the Appsurance program, we give you a guarantee that if you follow a certain methodology, that your modernization is going to be done in time and within the budget that you've set aside for doing that. And this is the approach that we typically use. We begin with the highest business value first. Why would you rewrite all of your backend code if it's in perfectly working order, but all it really needs is a modern user interface? As a first project, we like to start with a minimum viable product. So that means that in weeks after you begin, typically 3 to 4 weeks, you release your first product out of the door. And I'll have some real life progress examples to show you in this presentation as well. A very user experience first approach to developing software. So you begin with getting from your end users how they would like to use the software. From that, you build your user stories. From that, you build using tools for that, the screens, and then you start developing software as a last step. So you completely turn your software development paradigm around. You don't begin with architecture, then data modeling, then logic, and then UI, but you turn it around and you begin with the user experience. In this methodology, we always use an Agile Scrum approach to do the software development, even with small development teams. That keeps you, it's not that you're going to be more productive. This is often misunderstood by software developers. They think you're going to be more productive with Agile Scrum. Well, you're not. In fact, typically Agile Scrum will add maybe 10% overhead to your team because you're meeting more frequently, because you're discussing things more frequently. However, you will only be building the stuff that you actually need and things that have been thoroughly thought upfront with user stories on how they should work. So your development is at the end of the day going to be more efficient because while you spend less time writing code, you're only going to build what is critical for your organization. And very often we begin with a proof of concept, building a usable product in about 1 week time, reusing your existing technology. And SIT will share what they did in a video a bit later on how they built a banking application connected to their Progress backend, reusing Progress business logic and data and ABL in 1 week of time. And that enabled them to take that prototype, show it to their banking customers and say, is this what you think our future is? And they'll obviously said yes. And that is when they started building everything else using Servoy. All right. I've sort of briefly touched on this. When you're building business applications, you're going to need a lot of non-functional requirements. So non-functionals are things that your end user doesn't directly need, but your software architecture does desperately need them. And typically you, as a development shop, you don't want to be building all of your own non-functionals. Instead, you should be selecting tools and frameworks and platforms out there that give you those non-functionals out of the box so that you can focus on the functionals, which is where you make money delivering functionality to your end users. So don't spend too much time in building those yourself. There's been a lot of talk in web-based development about building stateless applications. And every time that somebody begins talking about stateless and serverless applications, I ask them to show me one. And I've never seen a stateless application. In particular, if you're looking at complex business applications, if you're looking at an ERP, you're doing a transaction, you need to go through different screens. You need to have that state. And this is often very difficult in browser-based applications because technically the browser is stateless. Let's keep that in mind. The browser is a stateless thing. When you go from one page to another, your state is gone and lost in cyberspace. So you need to move your state management to your server, where traditionally with your Windows-based applications, your state would typically be managed by the client itself. So that's one of the many things that Servoy as a platform does for you. We do the full state management for you so that you don't have to build your own state machine, your state engines and everything that comes with that. And that really makes it very painless to take complex business applications and make them browser-based and make them available as mobile applications, because that whole state is managed for you. All right, let's have a look at some of the progress companies that made that switch to using Servoy as their modernization platform. And SIT, they're going to be here at the conference. If you guys want to speak to some of these clients, then just let us know, and we're happy to set up introductions for you. SIT came to me exactly 1 year ago at Progress Next. So 12 months ago, they came to us and they said, we need to rapidly modernize our banking application. And we would like to do that in less than a year, if that is technically even feasible. So we looked at it with them, and together with their team, in about 5 months' time, we created, together with them, a full mobile and browser-based consumer banking platform on their existing Progress application. As you can imagine, if you're giving this kind of technology to end users, your testing has to be extremely rigorous, because with business applications, you have some control over what system are they using, what browser are they using. But if you're giving applications to end users, you have no control over browser versions, you have no control over what kind of devices they are using. So you need to have very thorough cross-device support. You need to have very thorough testing in place. So they use our QA Pass platform, which allows you to do continuous integration and continuous deployment, but it also contains a full stack to test your software in an automated fashion. Because every time you do a build, you don't want to go fire up all those different browsers and have an actual user click through it to see if everything is still working. So we allow you to automate that on our platform and allow you to set your test. So you script your test one time, where you would say, click on this button, then do this, then do this. It's recorded. And then every time you build your software, that full suite of tests is run on all operating systems that you need it to run on and all browser combinations that you need it to run on. So you simply tick the boxes. I want to run it on Linux and on Windows and on Mac and on these browsers and Chrome and on Firefox and Safari, etc. And once you've set that up, every time you build, the full suite of tests is run. And if anything fails, it creates a recording for you so that the developers can go and watch the recording and fix the issues. So let's have a look at what SIT has to say.
SIT, we have a leading digital banking platform that's been built over 30 years on Progress technology. As we look to modernize, Progress gave us the definite ability to be able to open up our systems, to take an API-first development methodology and innovate on top of our platform. Bringing Servoy to the table allowed us to take that platform and build really cool apps and desktop capability on top of it. And that's where the partnership really comes together for SIT to allow us to be successful as an independent software vendor.
We at SIT are opening up our application to enable open banking. Our development shop has the mandate or the mantra of API first, so that any new development that we go into or any revisions done in any existing code base, we look at it from the API first mentality. Our goal is to make sure that when we're in touching any of the application, that we can open that functionality up via our API.
Applications today are a digital arms race. There are fintechs starting up all the time building new applications that some are outside our space, some cross into our space, whether it be budget management applications, loan applications, retail banking applications. Those are going out in the industry every single day. And our customers want to know, how do they actually provide similar capability to their customers? They don't want to lose. We don't want to lose. So that's the competitive pressure that comes into this, is that there's an arms race out there in applications. So when we look at what SIT is doing is, how do we open up our platform to enable really good digital applications to be built against our product? And Servoy is the framework that allows us to develop those apps very rapidly, safely, securely. Allows us to get smart fast.
So as a product manager supporting our financial institutions, the trends that they're looking for is to seek a competitive edge for their members to get access to their funds, to get access to request loans, to get open accounts. So building these applications has allowed our customers to expand their market to the greater population.
So one of the reasons that we're looking at doing modernization is to be able to provide new capabilities to our customers. We need to be able to get full value out of the core banking system that we've built over the last 30 years, but also modernize in such a way that we can rapidly bring new features to market to allow our customers to be competitive within their markets.
When we were trying to do everything ourselves in terms of developing our own framework to work within, it was difficult because we had to consider the security and the interface and the architecture of how the data moves. When it came to Servoy, all of those things were already prepackaged, and it gave us a lot of freedom to make use of those things within Servoy, but we didn't have the slowdowns or surprises of what do we do about this problem.
So that we have a lot more time to focus on exposing our application through the API first mentality, and not having a shortcut route. We have more time to take the time to do it properly, as opposed to taking shortcuts, because we don't really have to worry too much about the front-end presentation layer. It just works.
Alrighty. Hopefully my YouTube doesn't play autoplay based on my preferences, which is, as you can see, is flying planes. The next video. All right, that's SIT, who has successfully done that. Another company also in the banking space is Journey Technology Solutions, who build more applications inside the banks. So now you're talking about business-to-business applications used by banks internally. And they were able to rapidly, in just a few months' time, build new applications and deliver those while leaving their existing progress infrastructure in place. So that's really the key that these customers went through, is being able to leave those millions of lines of code that you've developed, that you know they work, and without large modifications to them, build new and fresh browser-based and mobile applications on top of it. And very often for both the browser, but also for mobile applications. So what you probably saw in the SIT video is they have both a browser-based product and a native mobile application. And we allow you to do that from the same code base. So you develop it once, and when you're ready, you can deploy it as an iOS and or Android application through an App Store model, which if you're targeting consumers, then you definitely want to go through an App Store. If you have more a business-to-business application, then you may want to do a direct deploy of either a native application or a browser-based access to your application, and that's a model that we support as well. Royal 4, quite well known in the progress world. Actually, I was visiting them last month, and they have an award standing in their hallway that says longest generating progress revenue partner. So they've been around for a while in the progress world. They've built up a very large WMS and also an ERP in progress, and they've tried many years to modernize it, and not very successfully until they run into us. And again, with them, as we do with all our customers, we started with a small project. So in their case, we started with replacing a portal function they had into their WMS. That was literally developed in 3 weeks' time, and it was put live the week thereafter. So 4 weeks into the project, they had their first customer-facing application out there and starting to build up experience on how to build, integrate, but also deploy those applications to your customers. 6 weeks later, they built a new module, which is actually generating net new revenue for them. So they built a module to do warehousing for smaller customers that before that they didn't target. But if you're using software as a service, you often find the capability to go into lower end markets where traditionally you wouldn't go because of the cost of sale to smaller clients. So they built a completely self-service, self-sign-up module where smaller warehousing companies can go to. They can sign themselves up. They can start using the software with little or no training because of their UX first approach. And this is now already generating new revenue for Royal 4, allowing them to enter into new markets. And after that project, this is when they started modernizing their large and huge WMS system, which is now in progress, and that's going quite well and very controlled. So a couple of different screens on their application, so you get a bit of an idea. What you'll see here is typically people think that in a browser you can't do a lot of interactive bits. They have a complete drawing tool, browser-based, so we allow you to build controls that are as rich as you would have in your native Windows applications. So in their case, people want to build maps of their warehouse and draw them visually on the screen so that you can start planning where you're going to put products, and then you can start computing with their WMS system what the optimal route is to go through. So today in a browser with the proper technology, you can make your applications as rich as your native Windows applications. If you need hardware integration, then we give you that out of the box. We allow you to run and interact with the local hardware. So if you need to interact with a barcode scanner, with a printer, with any kind of local hardware device, the file system, any kind of hardware that you need to integrate with is supported out of the box so that you don't have to spend the time in doing that. So yes, with browser-based applications, there are ways to integrate hardware into your business application and still run it cloud-based or server-based if that is what you want to do. All right, one more customer interview. This is more of a corporate client for Servoy, so not an ISV who build and sell software, but an in-house application development on top of Progress and QAD. So this company uses QAD as their core ERP system. But often when you are using an off-the-shelf ERP, you still may have very specific needs, and in that case build your own applications on top of that. And they've selected Servoy as the platform to do that. So let's have a few more minutes of video and then continue.
Ray Magnet Wire is a manufacturing company that's based here in Indiana. Our headquarters are in Fort Wayne. We've been in business for 85 years.
Ray's interested in putting together an application for our returns process. So the reverse logistics of selling material in the event that it needs to come back to Ray Magnet Wire. So we were looking for a way to streamline that business process and make it more reliable, less errors, and to make it easier to do business with Ray. So the original solution is a Progress application written in-house by Ray Magnet Wire, but it is integrated with the QAD ERP system. The hackathon was interesting. The Servoy team took our basic specifications and really wowed us with some of the functionality that they presented in a very short amount of time. And that was a great way to see what the tool could do for us. We started with Servoy in a proof of concept project. We wanted to see how long it would take and what sort of deliverable could be made in a very short scoped project that was aimed at this exact same application. And the application really was awesome for the amount of time that was given to do it. It was doing everything we were looking for.
We took a look at what we had already developed. So some of this has already been out there for 15 years. So at that time, it was very basic presentation of web screens, very basic HTML, and our website appeared dated, right? So we certainly understood the need to modernize what we're trying to do and to be as customer-friendly and as customer-centric as possible. The user experience and the user interface does matter. It matters a lot. And the tools we were looking to find had to address those user experience needs very well. And the Servoy tools that we found certainly did that. Allow us to do mature things on our web application and certainly take us well beyond where we were 15 years ago when it was a little more straightforward, stateless web applications that were typical when the Progress community was largely using web speed to do that development.
We were able to use services that we had already developed for a full Progress environment. We were able to use those same services with the Servoy front end. In developing this application, a lot of the front end checking for edits and your normal screen interaction are all done in Servoy.
We certainly got the benefits of the App Assurance program. That is, Servoy partnered a gentleman with Ray for our project, and there were code reviews and helped us steer the project in the right direction so we were making the progress that we wanted to and hitting the timetable that we laid out, and the Scrum and the sprints were all part of that to help us manage this project in an effective way. I think Servoy stood out to us when we were going out to survey the market because of the customer service. I think Jan worked directly with me and my team, as well as some other gentlemen, and they were all very helpful. They were eager to earn our business, and to earn our business, I felt like they went like the extra mile to do the proof of concept, the hackathon, whatever it was that we were looking for, they found a way to show that their company, their service, their tool was certainly capable of meeting our needs.
We like to use tools like Servoy because of the productivity gains. We're not a software company. We're being asked to deliver new business applications on a regular basis, and a build-it-your-own approach all the way down to the core components is just not what we want to do. When we started the engagement with Servoy, a lot of the general design was complete, and we knew certainly the goals of the project, what needed to be delivered. The particulars in the complex world of reverse logistics, there was a lot to discover yet. So constantly meeting with our users to make sure we were on track, and we showed software on a regular basis back to the users so they could see how the program flowed and what needed to be added and what else could be done to streamline the business process. Now that we've completed an application with Servoy, we're looking forward to the next applications that need developed to take advantage of the infrastructure that's now in place. We've got the security figured out, the integration is figured out, and build a new database and a front-end application with Servoy should go very smoothly.
All right. Before we run out of time, let's jump to the Q&A, the interactive part of the session.
Okay. Yeah, let's see what's on your mind. I mentioned in the beginning that one of the problems that we help people out of by modernizing is to stop the loss of new customers, new business opportunities. On the plus side, it also provides an opportunity for our customers to start winning new sales and gaining opportunities. A great example of that was with SIT, that application that they built for one bank earned them the business for a brand new client, a large bank in Europe, and now they're taking it to various banks in North America and winning a lot of sales as a result of that. So that's on the upside. We have 9 minutes, so let's hear what's on your mind. Any questions, please? Yes, sir.
Yeah, a very good question. And actually, SIT and Royal 4 had that very same question. And that is why they opted for doing a proof of concept together with us. So that takes about 1 week. And in that 1 week of time that we both invested into doing that, the deliverable is a product that you can show to your either existing customers or potential new customers.
Or your boss.
Or your boss. And it builds up, it gives you because it's a real application, we don't do any fake proof of concept, it's a real app that is talking to your progress app. So the second experience that you build up is how is the integration done and how well does that work. So it also gives you a high-level scope of what else is to come during that proof of concept. So what would it take to do everything in Servoy? But most importantly, it gives you something to show to your customers and to your boss. This is what we believe our future is. And for both SIT and Royal 4, that was critical in their decision, because you're choosing any platform, whether it's Servoy or whatever you're going to pick, is a big decision. You're typically going to take that decision and use it for 5 to 10 years. So you shouldn't go over it too lightly. And we've seen that with the proof of concept, that is the most efficient way, a small investment of time, about 5 days, to building and delivering something.
Okay. How about if we go deeper into it offline? Okay. We have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to give you a couple of reminders before we go to the next question. Please be sure to fill out your session review form. It's on the app. And so you could do that when you leave here. And also, obviously, we're showing you our technology. Hopefully, we're giving you a little bit of a sense of who and what we are as a company, because what we have found is that technology is one thing. We're not the only technology that's available, of course, but it's such an involved project when we do work with people that we encourage you to get to know us a little bit. because there's the customer service part that a couple of the videos, a couple of our customers spoke to, but we're here. You had two of the senior people here. We encourage you to come talk to us at the booth, get your key finder, and get a feel for what we are like as a people, as a company, the people of the company. And also, we have a dinner tonight. If you would like to join us for a wonderful dinner at Cafe D'Antonio, please come see us, and we'll extend an invitation. Do we have another question? Yes, sir.
Have you modernized any old character apps that, the UI, the database access, and business logic all commingled in old procedure type files?
Yes. So we have modernized all kinds of progress applications. Obviously, if there's already a separation and there are already web services available, it will be less work. But taking older applications, including character-based, we can help you modernizing those as well, yes. And
you have tools that help analyze the code and pull out UI and things like that?
That's right, yes. So it's a combination of tools and knowledge in our assurance program that will help you to get there.
Good. Anyone else? Clear as a bell to everyone else? Nothing? Or once, twice? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.